This episode of the Nerf Herder Council is brought to you by Audible. Visit audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. Warning: the following podcast contains irreverent humor, exceptionally nerdy opinions, potential cursing, and plenty of love for the prequels. If any of the preceding offends you, please turn off this podcast immediately, and may the Force be with you.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder!
You can't use that word! Only we can use that word!
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate. Featuring your hosts, JT, Star Wars. It's freaking Star Wars. Like, what, you gonna go to a fucking Jedi library or something? AJ.
Yeah, Rebels is a lot like our show, where we think we have a good idea and then it just fails in execution.
Steve.
It's a sign of any good audio podcast is visuals, right?
On this episode of the Nerf Herder Council, we discuss Qui-Gon Jinn and an interesting new take on his opinion of the Force as it appears in the new comic Age of Republic.
This is the Nerf Herder Council.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. With me are AJ and Steve, and we hope everybody had an awesome Christmas this past week. I know that we did. I got a whole bunch of Black Series figures.
Oh, yeah? What'd you get?
I got Supreme Leader Snoke, I got General Leia, and I got the First Order TIE Fighter pilot.
Okay, the standard one? Not the Special Forces one that came in the TIE Fighter itself?
No, I still have to get that one. I also got...
God, what's that cost now?
You can get it for like $50-$60 still if you look right. But
Really?
it's actually more usually, but you can look for a deal.
Cool.
I got some decals for my car. One that says, my other ride is a light model YT 1300 Corellian light freighter. I got
Seems
the little...
a little long-winded for
Yeah,
a sticker.
right?
Oh, it's great, man. And I got one that says 11.99 parsecs in the little like circle, so it looks like all European and stuff.
Oh, like the runner's decal?
Uh-huh. Yep, I got that. I got an X-Wing decal because I drive the CX-Wing. And the coolest of all, for the mirror, I got the golden dice.
Nice.
So the CX-Wing now has golden dice, so I've got Millennium Falcon stuff and X-Wing stuff in there. So,
Dude, I'm jealous. I got exactly no Star Wars stuff this year.
really?
Wait, no, I got three cheesy t-shirts. That's it. I got a Yoda Christmas t-shirt and then a couple, I don't know, like novelty things from like Five Below or something.
I got a Death Star oven timer that when it goes off, it shoots a green laser out and makes the Death Star firing noise. So that was really cool.
Oh, okay, that's
I
pretty
got the
amazing.
Nerf Herder t-shirt from you. Thank you very
Yes.
much. So AJ bought me a t-shirt from our own show, but it looks great, man. I love it. The logo's bigger on it than I thought, and I like it when the logo takes up a little more space.
Yeah, so we now confirmed we've got physical examples of all the designs available, and they're all looking good.
Yep, I completely
I'm pleased.
agree. So, and I also got a door-sized poster of Han Solo frozen in carbonite for my man cave. So now my entire door is going to be Han Solo frozen in carbonite, which is pretty kick-ass.
Nice.
So that was very nice. My wife hooked me up, man. My wife and stepson, they definitely Star Wars'd me, which is great. So, what did you get anything of Star Wars note for Christmas, Steve?
I got the Black Series Luke.
Luke on Achto.
Yeah, the special one from Target or whatever
Yeah,
it
the
was.
centerpieces, I think they call those.
Yeah. And I bought myself the Black Series Vader helmet.
Oh, yeah, I bought one of those too. Thank you for letting me know about the Amazon deal of the day, you guys.
Oh yeah,
It's already back up to $90, and we got ours, what,
Yeah.
48?
Yeah, $50. Well, $52 after shipping.
Uh-huh.
That thing is beautiful, man. I just got it at work today and put it up on my desk. So I've got the TK Stormtrooper, I've got Vader, and I've got the Poe Dameron X-Wing helmet.
Did you get the stupid plastic thing to balance properly?
Yeah, I didn't know what the heck that was for.
Yeah, I feel like a complete idiot that it came with a random piece of plastic in the back. And because obviously the neck piece will sit flat, and then the actual helmet part goes underneath that because it kind of would hit you in the shoulder.
Oh yeah, the Vader
area.
helmet, right? Okay.
So you can't exactly just set the thing straight. So it comes with this random shaped piece of plastic that they're just like, it shows you the worst picture in the galaxy,
and
it just goes jam it under the back of it so it sits up straight. And I'm sitting there with this piece of plastic on a hardwood floor, and I'm like, what the hell? And I finally just turned it sideways, completely not the way it was supposed to, and jammed the thing underneath it, and it kind of balanced on it. And I'm just like, I'm going to put it back in the box. I don't care.
Yeah, I just put
whatever. I just chucked the piece of plastic back into the box. I'm like, I don't know what the hell to do with this thing. It's fine, whatever. It's going to sit in the box anyway.
That's what I did. I just put it in my desk, and it really does. It's not that. It doesn't tilt forward that badly at all anyway.
You can lean it forward and it's not too horrible.
It looks normal on my desk. I mean, it's not like kind of angled backwards a little bit like the TK helmet, because the TK helmet has the opposite problem. But I mean, they look almost the same, so it's not even a big deal.
Just get a styrofoam mannequin head thing and stick it on your desk with the helmet.
You know what?
I thought
about doing that, like, and getting it like on like a stand so I could put it behind my monitors and have it just standing up. That'd be great.
The only thing I will say is bad about that, I love that it comes in 3 pieces. It's really detailed and everything like that.
Yeah, it is.
It does not have the voice changer in it, which I know that's like asking a lot, but but at the same time, when you put the helmet on, you're just like, this is all it needs is the voice changer, and it would be perfect. I could walk around in public with this thing on and not care.
This is the David Prowse version, though. Not the James Earl Jones version. You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away.
How are you supposed to LARP without the voice changer?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you could probably order one that like the hardcore 501st guys have, but when you're talking a Black Series helmet, do you really want to invest like another $100 into a 501st approved voice changer?
Yep. Especially when it's like, for me, I'm just displaying them on my desk at work.
When the most you're gonna wear it is on Sunday, sitting on the couch trying to impress people that come over for a football game. So you're not gonna drop 3 figures on a voice changer for that.
Well, you might be able to do it, but my giant dome doesn't fit inside those things, so they're only for only for display for me.
The Vader helmet fits pretty good, actually. The Poe Dameron helmet is tight, dude. That thing hurts. To wear the Vader helmet, not so bad, actually.
I can't get the TK helmet on at the largest setting that it has, so that Poe Dameron helmet is a lost cause.
If you really want to try the Vader helmet, it's actually pretty good, to tell you the truth. There's room to move. Like because it's got like elastic straps on the back of the faceplate. So it's tough. Like if you actually bend over, you start to feel the helmet move because there's so much room inside of it still.
Oh, so it'd be snug for me.
Yeah, so it might fit perfectly for you. You'd be fine.
Like giant melon. So, well, all right. Well, let's get on to tonight's topic here. So, AJ, you had brought a very interesting video to the table. It's from the Star Wars Explained YouTube channel, and it's pretty short. It's only about 5.5 minutes long, but it's basically about Qui-Gon Jinn and kind of explains his viewpoint of the Force, and it makes a pretty interesting point. So I'll let you talk about it because you actually brought this to the show.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But in the 3 years we've been doing this show, and as much as we, harp on loving the prequels, we've never really had a good conversation about Qui-Gon, who is kind of like the forgotten character of the prequel trilogy, I think. Like, I don't know. When people think about like episode 1, they always go like Darth Maul, right? Like that's the one that everyone loves and remembers.
It's Darth Maul and the annoying child. That's really what people would like to harp on the most.
Pretty much, yeah. So like Qui-Gon kind of gets forgotten because he's just like this Jedi we never met, and then he's dead by the end of the movie. And obviously Obi-Wan, we know him, so he kind of like takes the spotlight. But yeah, I always found Qui-Gon to be a super intriguing character, and they've started this this new comic series. It's was it 12 issues, I think, starting with this first one called Age of Republic. And I think they're doing like 4 issues per era of Star Wars. So you've got 4 based on the prequels and 4 based on original trilogy and 4 on sequel trilogy.
Okay.
And this first one focuses on Qui-Gon. And the video is really just a synopsis of what goes on in that comic book. But, you know, like we were talking about how it's a connected universe and we don't really pay attention to the comics. I really want to try reading this thing because it's an entire story about Qui-Gon and a lot of his own internal monologue about his beliefs about the Force and the role of the Jedi and all of that. And it hits on those same story beats. Like, JT, you know the Plagueis book and how we talk about how that one really needs to be canon and not just relegated to legends at this point, right?
Sure.
Like, this is that same era where it explores all those themes that like episode 1 didn't have the time to delve into and kind of got made fun of for even introducing. But when you take the time in a comic book or a book to really like dig into what the Sith believe, what the Jedi believe, like the foundations of their conflict and how they go about working with the Force, it's so fascinating. And this Qui-Gon story talks about how basically he was the last bastion of the true Jedi Order. You know, we've been told that the Jedi that we see in the prequels aren't true Jedi, you know? Like they've lost their way. They're more worried about doctrine and the science of midichlorians and all this stuff instead of
stopping the Sith.
Right. And well, actually not stopping the Sith. Because if you think about it, the first time Qui-Gon goes to the council in Phantom Menace and is like, hey, this guy was trained in the Sith arts. And what does Mace Windu do? He's like, Sith. We dealt with them 1,000 years ago. You're so full of it, man.
Well, they do go to war, you know.
Yeah, they do go to war 10 years after episode 1.
So they're interested in war, and they're also, the oppression of the Sith will never return. Like, as soon as they find out that Sidious is a Sith, they're running off to the, Jedi temple to cut his head off. So like,
yeah, it's intriguing because he's the only one who's like, they say in episode 1 how like, Obi-Wan's like, dude, if you just follow what the council says, you'd be on it. Like, you could be on the Jedi friggin' council if you just get along with what they're saying. And Qui-Gon's like, I will do what I must.
Yeah.
And what does that really mean? Like, did you ever notice how doesn't he seem like a crappy Jedi a little bit in episode 1? Some of the things he does, like he's using the Force to like move the chance cube so he gets his way with Watto, and he's always like a little shady for a Jedi, don't you think?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the first time you definitely see something like that for sure. I mean, I thought it was cool because it's like you have to imagine that the Jedi would do that. Like, you're not just going to be 100% good guy. Like, you're going to kind of let's move things in our favor here every once in a while.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's you do use it for that. So,
we all would. So
yeah, exactly. All of us have said, like, if we were going to be anything in the Star Wars universe, it'd be a gray Jedi. We'd have to, But yeah, the one thing that I thought was cool about the video was how it kind of it delved into his beliefs of the Force, and what it said really made a lot of sense. In that, basically he ends up going to this. He ends up trusting the Force. He basically closes his eyes and lets the Force lead him.
Mm-hmm.
And it leads him to a planet with a lot of plant life and animal life stuff that's very strong in the light side of the Force.
He does ultimate cruise control in his starfighter. Just lets it go wherever.
He's going Tesla autopilot on that thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it says, one of the things in there, it says, I hope the Force is, I hope it's not the will of the Force to like guide me into the middle of a star or something,
Mm-hmm.
And so he ends up on this planet, and there's all this, like, the light side of the Force, all that stuff. And he
just takes him to an intergalactic booby bar.
Yeah, right. He's like, wow, okay.
There's just a girl with like 4 chesticles, pouring blue milk all over herself. And he's like, really?
It's like, I must not have been a very good Jedi.
The Force, you've betrayed me.
But so he gets there, and just like on Achto, it says, a place strong in the light, also, has
Just
a place
like-
strong with the
Just
dark.
like Achto, he starts sucking the blue milk.
Yeah, there he goes. You're back on the blue milk. So, but yeah, so I guess he goes in there and he has like a, a weird, dark side force vision and all that. And basically what he realizes is that the light and the dark are coexisting peacefully. There's no conflict between them, even though they're like right next to each other on this planet. And so his outlook is basically that, the Jedi are doing it wrong and that they shouldn't be fighting, and it's weird that this hasn't come out before and people haven't posited on it more, I think, because I mean, Yoda says in The Empire Strikes Back, he says, use the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack. And yet, the point is made in this video that, the Jedi go running off and leading the clone army and they join the Clone Wars and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, so I think the outlook is really interesting and it really makes a lot of sense is that, you in a way you pretty much have balance if you just let the dark side exist and you don't mess with it. And you just kind of like, if it gets out of line, you try and check it. That's basically defense because you don't want to be overrun.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool because it seems like something that it was so obvious, but nobody really talks about it that much.
Yeah,
At least not detail. They've talked about how the Jedi lost their way and stuff, and he even points out in the video that even when you look to the original trilogy, everybody thinks of Jedi as these great warriors, and they looked at as military and stuff. But when you look back on it, they're just supposed to be there. There's not supposed to be fighting. There's not supposed to be. They're just supposed to exist and create balance and all that stuff, protect, but not be generals and warriors.
Yeah.
And stuff like you even said. Luke says in Episode 4 or whatever, he thinks when they bring up Yoda, he immediately goes, "Oh yeah, a great warrior."
Yeah, I'm looking for a great warrior.
Yeah, it's like it just turns somewhere along the line. They lost their way, and it turned into these guys are now known across the galaxy as warriors when they're not supposed to be.
It's weird that Luke would say that, though, because in Episode 4, Obi-Wan describes the Jedi Order as the guardians of peace and justice. He doesn't say, yeah, we were awesome generals, man. Clone Wars, we kicked ass. So where Luke got this idea that warrior is how you describe a Jedi, I'm really not sure.
Well, I mean, but if you think about it, that's exactly, that's exactly the
Probably
point.
explained in a comic book somewhere.
Yeah, it was something else. It was in the holiday special. We just missed it. But I mean, I think that goes to show, what the point of the video is that, people don't really realize, like all these, in the beginning of the story, that they kind of, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan escape and this other, I forget who the person was, some female character
Some
or something.
Priestess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it was.
NPC.
And she's like, well, what the heck? Why are you pussing out? Like, I thought Jedi were supposed to be these like warriors and stuff. And Qui-Gon's like, no.
Yeah.
But it's like, in the points made that, there's like, 10, there's only 10 in the entire galaxy. There's only like 10,000 Jedi. So people don't really see them very often.
Yeah. It sounds like a ton of 10,000. Holy crap. That's a lot of Jedi.
But not among billions.
Trillions, whatever.
Yeah. And so it's like, when people see them and they've got lightsabers, they're thinking, okay, that's a pretty wicked weapon. And when they see them,
it's like
attacking people, they're just decimating people because of using the Force and the lightsabers and all that stuff. So the assumption is that
that's what Jedi do.
Yeah, and it's just not the case.
And also the guy that made the video pointed out how we are spoon-fed the Jedi in the movies and stuff. So we kind of look at it as Jedi are everywhere.
Yeah.
Because they're just forced down our throats for all these movies, basically. But in the grand scheme of things, like you said, trillions of people and 10,000 Jedi, you might see one in your entire life, maybe.
Yeah.
See, I drew kind of an interesting parallel. That's a good point that you bring up, Steve, because I was thinking about this. Like, it does say that there's 10,000 in the entire galaxy, which is a drop in the bucket type of thing. And I was kind of thinking, I'm like, that's pretty cool because in a way that's how we as viewers saw Jedi in the original trilogy, because all you saw was Obi-Wan and Vader and Yoda and you know,
That's a good
and,
point.
and Luke. But then in the prequels, it's kind of like we see it, you know, we see every Jedi. So it's like we kind of get both perspectives, so you can kind of see why the rest of the galaxy would view Jedi the way they do, because they never see them. It's unique and whatnot. And we didn't get to see them in full-on attack mode like they kind of assume they always are. But it is an interesting concept, and you don't have all of the details in the original trilogy. It's just like, whoa, man, the Force and lightsabers. But the prequels show kind of all of it, which I thought it's cool to see like both outlooks, I thought. So
Yeah, the thing that made me wonder in thinking about this story is, what do you think the Jedi were supposed to be? Because we've never seen it. I mean, that's all we really get, even in this comic story, is that Qui-Gon basically saying that what they're currently doing ain't right.
Well, I think that could be something that is going to be explained like in maybe the Rian Johnson trilogy or the Game of Thrones writers trilogy, because that's really the one era of Star Wars that has not been covered in canon yet. I mean, really, the only thing that's been covered in canon, it really begins with episode 1.
Yeah.
And anything before that we haven't seen.
Yeah, nothing official exists anymore.
Yeah, so I mean, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with it, because from what's been said and inferred in stuff that's canonical, the Sith weren't around before that. So it's like, okay, what are the Jedi going to be doing? Are they just going to watch them go shopping or some shit? You know?
Right. They're all just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, they're going to the library, reading some books. You know, like I'm gonna they're macrameing their own robes.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I mean, what are they going to be
the-
doing?
Well, isn't that where the costume design even came from for Obi-Wan originally? He was supposed to look kind of like a monk, right?
Yeah,
Like it was a religious sect of sorts, and they just studied the mysteries of the Force, I guess. Except whenever they, you know, I don't know, had to go out and like bully someone around who was, you know, getting out of line, because they're the defenders of peace and justice in the galaxy. So they are kind of like intergalactic police.
yeah.
And kind of unchecked.
Otherwise they're sitting around just playing Jedi Russian roulette, or there's like 10 lightsaber hilts and they pulled the batteries out of one of them.
They had to randomly pick it and like ignite it next to their
Yeah,
hand.
they're just holding it next to their head, just click. No, gotcha.
Sweet, live another day.
No Kyber in that one.
Damn.
The other 9 just have the little flag that pops out, says bang.
No, it says hum.
Yeah.
It says hum.
Right. That's awesome. But yeah, I mean, the video presents a really cool way to look at the Force, because it makes a lot of sense. And you know, when you really look at the prequels, you kind of do see, you know, that yeah, the Jedi really were pretty much not really going along with what the doctrine of the Jedi Order seems to have always been, at least for our understanding.
So from the sounds of it, to me, it sounds like after a long time of doing nothing, the Jedi got bored and decided they're going to start putting their nose into other people's business, so they have something to do in life now.
But I mean, he makes a good point saying that, you know, Palpatine was, you know, he was ingenious because he ends up creating this army, but doesn't create any leadership, which kind of forces the Jedi to lead them. So he kind of like coerces them into doing what they shouldn't be. And I still just wonder how, the one thing I still don't like is, you know, oh, well, you know, the dark side clouds everything, and you know, so they can't see this, like they, you know, it's like but I guess it's hubris. They don't see that they're being manipulated into doing things against their own beliefs, which, you know, you don't really think about it.
Yeah, and coming back to that point about Mace Windu just and the council at large dismissing the possibility that there's a Sith running around out there, because as far as they know, they wiped him out a long time ago. Like, that's the other thing that clouds their judgment, is they look right past the most obvious explanation. And that's also pointed out in the videos. Like, Qui-Gon's the only one who fights a dude with a red lightsaber who, you know, basically can run around like a Jedi and has force powers, but red lightsaber, and he's like, gotta be a Sith. what is it? Occam's razor, I think.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon believes in Occam's razor, and the Jedi Council does not. Yeah, I've always wondered about that. Like, if you're saying that, okay, well, the dark side of the Force clouds everything. Well, okay, but if that's getting worse and worse and worse, wouldn't you assume that something has to be directing that? It's not just like it gets cloudy outside, like, oh crap, that must be a dark side cloud. Oh, the sun's back out. Dark side of the Force is gone again. Like, no, like something has to be directing this somehow, and they just don't seem to go after it.
TMZ.
Yeah,
That's what's doing it.
Intergalactic Google.
Yeah.
It's all the hubris. Seriously though, it's all the hubris in the galaxy. I mean, we like using that word tonight, I guess. But
Yeah.
I think that's, well, it doesn't count anymore because it was a Legends book. But that was basically the veil that they used, at least in that book, was they just kind of poked and prodded people. They stoked conflict throughout the galaxy to where it was all of that animosity and hatred and all those dark emotions that clouded the Jedi's vision, so they couldn't see the true source of the problem.
Yeah, just like basically starting too many fires, and they couldn't focus on one type of a situation.
Right. So it just seems like a whole bunch of separate skirmishes instead of one overarching plan connecting them all together.
Mm-hmm.
It's like well, you know, you love your books, Needful Things.
Oh yeah,
With Stephen King, where
love that book.
He just creates conflicts that have no correlation to each other, so no one realizes that it's one guy stoking the fires all over the place.
That's an excellent analogy because the town basically destroys itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like so many little things just explode, then the whole town just crumbles, and he leaves, and he's like, catch you later. And it's basically what Sidious did.
So here's what I wanted to know from you guys. So, like, we know that Qui-Gon is going against the will of the Council. Do you think he had it right though, as far as like how the Jedi should behave? And do you think that's why he was so ostracized by the Order, was because he was kind of like a Jedi out of his own time?
Yeah, I actually think that applies. I mean, I think it's if you apply what we know from canon that exists now, because obviously back in '99 he just kind of looked like a rogue.
Mm-hmm.
He was a rogue one.
Ooh, they should make a story about that.
Right. No, but I mean, we know different things now. But I mean, so if we take it all instead of just what we knew at the time, which he just basically looked like a guy who was like anti-authority almost. It's like he's like a rebel among Jedi. You know, he believed in like the truer nature of the Force, and the other Jedi were basically just going on ego in a way. They had kind of gotten away from that. And again, I think that's kind of shown in, like, we were talking about the chance cube, like doing that and all this other stuff. And it's like, he did that stuff not because he was trying to be nefarious or dirty. Nefarious probably isn't the word, but dastardly, we'll say.
Yeah.
He needed a good outcome to, he had to get a good outcome, and that was a way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And, he had to have Anakin somehow to get him to be trained, because he had this incredible midichlorian count. So he has to do something to ensure that he can make that happen. And we don't see this, so this is just an assumption on my part, unlike that piece of shit that was commenting on our last video. I will admit that I'm guessing. Stupid turd. But anyway,
Hashtag headcanon.
yeah, it's like, yeah, right. You have to wonder if Qui-Gon had already had that, you could see things in the future, like knew that if Anakin was in that race, he would win. So if he wins, knowing all that, he's got to figure out a way to use that to his advantage. And the only way would be to win him in a bet. And so he has to influence the chance cube to make sure that is what he wins. So, and it's not, he wasn't doing it because, for anything evil. I mean, he was doing it so that he could have this super strong Jedi trained.
And I even wonder about that. Like, how far does that go? Steve, what do you think? I mean, Qui-Gon's very big on the will of the Force, right? And he's just he'll do whatever he needs to do for the will of the Force. So how far ahead could he see events playing out?
Well, according to what we found out with the whole light side, dark side, like when he visited that planet in the comic and stuff, all the visions and stuff are always seem to be grainy, that you don't get a full picture.
Yeah.
And they even talked about that with the Vader 25 comic too, that he goes in the,
especially when the dark side's doing it. Yeah.
That everything's iffy. So it's almost like he saw a portion of the future and it was really grainy. And like you mentioned, he knew that Anakin needed to win this race and this and that, but it's almost like he's got half the picture. Yeah. So he knew, I know I need to do this, and hopefully going past that, it falls into line correctly. it's
Okay.
I'm trying to like connect what we learned in that video, because I didn't read the comic and the movie, and I'm trying to like piece it like chronological of when this all happened.
Chronologically, right?
Yeah. So
we'll play that out then, because I've always wondered this. So Qui-Gon follows the will of the Force, and he knows he needs to get Anakin into the fold of galactic events, right?
Right.
So whether the Council's going to train him or not, he's going to. Okay. And he believes strongly in the Chosen One. So how many of his choices throughout Phantom Menace do you think were guided by his belief in the will of the Force? Like, do you think he willingly marched basically to his own death, knowing, like, could he foresee his own death, and he was just like, all right, it's the will of the Force. I'm gonna follow it and play this out.
I'm gonna say possibly, because that did make everybody get their head out of their asses and believe that there was Sith, unlike trying to shrug it off like Mace and them were early in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, the only way he could get Obi-Wan to train him was by dying, and his dying wish wasn't to give some diatribe, was just to train the boy. That was it. That was his last thing on his mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, again, it's a lot of stuff that they would have to explain now, because, I mean, knowing what we know now,
and that also explains Episode 4 when Obi-Wan gives himself up looking at Luke running, because he's seen it once before where his master sacrificed himself for quote unquote the greater good.
That's a good point.
That's a really good point.
So yeah, I kind of do believe and
until
that on purpose,
and until Qui-Gon, got skewered there, like, Obi-Wan was totally in agreement with the Council. He's like, dude, the kid's dangerous. We're not training him.
Yeah.
But then, once you get a lightsaber through you, apparently people start listening. So
yeah,
gore somebody with a lightsaber.
It changes the tone slightly.
Exactly. Now that's a really good point, Steve, because Obi-Wan, his outlook changed, and it really laser focused him on training Anakin. And if we reverse, if we go back even a little bit further to say we apply what we learned now, maybe Qui-Gon did know that he was going to die, but he still went through with it because, well, that's the will of the Force. I'm not going to go against it.
Mm-hmm.
So, he saw that, and
that too. Yeah, we learned that in that video, is that he's very strong belief in the will of the Force. So yeah, one, he could do it on purpose. Two, he kind of might have been in his head and said, "Screw it, the Force is telling me I'm dead anyway. So let's make something out of it here."
He's not the Jedi to have this vision like, I get run through the lightsaber. Fuck that. I'm not doing that. He's like, oh, all right, well, I guess it's my last day.
He just tells Obi-Wan, you know what, why don't you go first through the little laser wall?
All right. Exactly.
You go first. I'm right behind you, Chief.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so he does that, and then,
oh no, the laser door closed. I'll stay behind this one. You go ahead, Obi-Wan.
What a shame, Obi-Wan. I'll be right there with you. But
give me 60 seconds, it'll open again, man.
Yeah, and then Obi-Wan in Episode 4, he looks over and sees Luke watching him fight Vader, and he gives himself up, knowing that that is, I mean, and maybe he had that premonition of, okay, this is what is supposed to happen in order for things to go the way they have to, in order to right the wrongs of the galaxy, or however you want to phrase it, but right the wrongs have been created by the Empire and all this other kind of thing. So I mean, it's a really cool way to look at it. I mean, and it's weird because it would be nice to get an explanation to that, but I don't know if we necessarily need it. And I'll use an example. Steve brought up that Vader 25 comic, and they actually do show Palpatine basically impregnating Shmi with the Force.
But again, that's a shifty dark side Force vision.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't read that as, well, this is factually what happened. Because
No.
the dark side's kind of a dick. Okay, like it's,
Well, okay,
it's
but
never going to be truthful.
But you know they put it in there for a reason, and that's basically saying, okay, well, Sidious did this, and it's like, okay, it was always, to me, it's like, okay, it's official now. You know, he manipulated the midichlorians to create life. Okay, but to me, it's like, all right, well, it was always kind of cool. Like, well, did that happen? Like, that little bit of gray area is pretty cool.
Well, again, I wouldn't trust just because it was in a dark side Force vision, because that same vision also had Vader coming back, not Anakin, but Vader coming back after the events of Mustafar, as though Padme hadn't died, and she threw herself off her own balcony rather than be with him. So clearly, this is not a factual vision that we're seeing here.
And like I pointed out when we were texting, it was old crusty Sidious, not 10 years before.
Also that, yes.
Episode 1 Sidious. And 2, I kind of looked at it as, did he really impregnate her, or was she pregnant already? And he just kind of put a little bit of dark side inside there. Like, it's kind of like you
but
said.
she said there was no father. That's already in the dialogue. There was no father. Like, so I mean,
because what they showed in the comics, she was very much pregnant while he was hanging out behind her, putting the little red laser beams into her.
Yeah.
So
See, I mean, well, but then again, I mean, basically people are going to read into this and say that, Sidious is, the creator of Anakin, but they can also go back on it at any time saying, no, that was just the Force vision.
Right.
So
it's a dark side Force vision.
Yeah.
And they're
I mean,
not
in a way, that's a pretty
accurate.
Yeah. And that's an ingenious way to write it for that reason, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Luke cut his own head off in a Vader helmet in Empire Strikes Back either, but you know what? That damn dark side, that'll mess with you, man.
Right.
That'll really mess with you.
Right.
No, Qui-Gon, I think Qui-Gon really gets it, because one of the things that the Clone Wars established as canon is that he's the one that figured out the whole living Force and cosmic Force, and you can credit him for Force ghosts. Like, Jedi didn't know that was even a thing until Qui-Gon figured it out and showed it to Yoda. That was in season 6, so Steve, if you haven't gotten there yet, spoiler. Qui-Gon's the one who shows Yoda that you can actually retain your individual spirit after death and not just be absorbed into the cosmic Force wholesale. And that's why the scene at the end of Revenge of the Sith makes sense, because then Yoda's like, I heard from Qui-Gon, by the way. Apparently, just because you die doesn't mean you're gone. So, hey, check this out. I'll show you how to do it.
That's got to be pretty creepy the first time that happens to you. Can you imagine you're sitting there, you're like chilling, reading a book, like, hey, Yoda. God damn right. What the hell? What are you doing here? Are you haunting me or something? No, check this out. I got this awesome new power. Let me tell you about it.
Like, aren't you dead?
Yeah.
No, well, yeah, but
see, here's the thing about that.
Yeah.
Cool parlor trick. I could create lightning too. Check this out.
You ever want to burn down a tree? I can show you how to do that too, man. It is awesome. Yoda's like, when the hell am I going to ever need that? Fast forward.
That's Yoda's contribution. Yeah. Qui-Gon figures out Force ghosts. Yoda figures out Force ghost lightning.
Just magic tricks. That's all he does. It's like, look, I can make this tree. I can light this tree on fire. I can also make cards disappear. I can make those porgs disappear. I can make that big sea cow explode. Did you learn anything worthwhile in the Force while you've been dead? No, it's pretty boring over there.
I can pull an endless stream of handkerchiefs out of my cloak.
He starts doing that. He flicks his wrist and a bouquet of flowers appears, and he's like, "Really? That's what you got for me?" Like, Qui-Gon,
what did you learn from that? And Qui-Gon just pulls a quarter from behind his ear. Huh?
Yeah, Yoda's like, well, what do you want? This is pretty impressive. And Luke's like, dude, Qui-Gon figures out how to basically come back from the dead, and you're
doing sleight of hand.
Yeah, exactly. You're damn 3 foot tall David Copperfield, really?
Is this card yours is?
Dude, mine's not even a black card. It was a red card. You can't even get that right. You got the Force. You ought to be able to pull the right one out.
And then Anakin's over there like, dude, I could totally change what I look like. Just give me 20 years and I'll look totally different.
Right? You got Yariel Poof sitting over in the side going, well, I didn't learn nothing. I'm just dead. Like, I'm part of the Force and I'm just kind of, f***ing around. Like, but, yeah, no, I thought it was really cool how they showed, Qui-Gon and what he learned of the Force and his outlook on it, because it's funny, like I said, to start it out, is that it when you really think about it, it's pretty obvious. Like it makes sense that light and dark, that is balance. Mm-hmm. And to start screwing with it, it's like a teeter-totter. Like if you start messing with it, it's going to invariably tilt towards the dark side, because if you're forcing the light upon the dark, that's basically an attack. So what you're doing is a dark side act. And the video actually mentions that. Yeah,
I always thought that was weird in the movies too, because they talk about, the balance of the Force. There must be balance. And Lor Santeca says, without the Jedi, there can be no balance. Like, but if all you're doing around is running around squashing darkness till there is none, that's not balance. That's imbalance towards the light. That's just you rooting for the home team. Mm-hmm. You've got to acknowledge that you need both sides if you want true balance. And I don't know if Qui-Gon quite got that part or not, though. Like, he understands that they can coexist, but at the same time, he's not pulling from both sides. He's still light side only. So I'm not sure how far or how wizened he really got to be, but it sure seems like he got it a lot more than other Jedi of his era. And I always wonder, like, maybe getting rid of him was a deliberate first step because he was identified by Palpatine as like the one guy who could really screw up all those plans to like stoke the Clone Wars,
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. He was the guy that understood, what was really happening, like, what the real point of the Force was. Mm-hmm. And Sidious is like, nah, screw that, man. Balance to me is you getting the hell out of here.
It's a win-win for Sidious, really, because if you think about it, on one hand, you get a major player off the board that could throw a wrench in your plans, and by revealing yourself as a Sith to the rest of the Jedi, they're like, well, crap, we're going to war, people. Come on, we got a target.
Yeah, you basically eliminate the one guy that would have been like, well, now hold on a second. Mm-hmm. Like, this is not what we want to do here. And yeah, so you're right. It's definitely like a 2-for-1 for him to do that. Mm-hmm. So, well, all right. Well, on that note, why don't we close up shop for this episode? I'm sure we'll talk more about Qui-Gon Jinn in future episodes, because he's probably my favorite prequel character. Something about him was just really cool, and it was a unique.
Was he in our underrated characters episode? Because he should have been.
I don't remember if I had him or not.
Well, he's in there now.
Yeah.
Headcanon. My headcanon says he was.
Headcanon, nice. Yeah, he's one of my favorite prequel characters, because it was just it was a unique take on the Jedi, and something that I definitely didn't expect. When we got Star Wars back in 1999, I was just thinking, okay, Jedi are good guys. Mm-hmm. And then you got Qui-Gon Jinn coming along, and like I say, he's kind of a maverick. I mean, we know he's more insightful and more method to his madness now, but back then he just was a guy who, as a Jedi, would piss into the wind and not care about it.
I wonder how much of this was written into the character's backstory back then, and they're just making it more overt in stories now.
I think it's overt in stories now, because I would think that George Lucas, if he wrote all that stuff back then, he wouldn't have killed him off in one movie. He would have had more story exposition rather than using him as, like, cannon fodder, for lack of a better term. He has this amazing outlook on the Force, but I'm just going to kill him anyway. Like, well, then you don't tell his story. So I think if George Lucas had written something like that, it would be in there.
Yeah.
So
I wonder.
But anyways, thanks again, everybody, for checking out another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. Don't forget, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial. Thanks to Galactic Empire. Check out their albums available on Rise Records. We are available on Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, CastBox, Spotify, Google Podcasts, basically most Android Pocket. Every time I say Pocket instead of podcast, most Android or Apple podcast apps. All of our episodes are available on YouTube. The website is nerfherdercouncil.com. We are available on Facebook. You can check us out and interact with us there. You can email us directly, feedback@nerfherdercouncil.com. And don't forget, you can go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com and get all of your awesome Star Wars swag, and we have physical proof that it looks fantastic. So if you go get a shirt or whatnot, it's going to look awesome, so you can trust us there. And Happy New Year to everybody, because when this episode comes out, it'll be December 30th. And so New Year's Eve will be a day away, and 2019 will be 2 days away, and that means that we are that much closer. We are finally in the calendar year where the finale of the Skywalker saga will hit theaters. So that's always a good thing.
One thing, I totally forgot to bring this up at the beginning of the show when we were talking about cool things we got for...
That's awesome. Well, the show's over.
Yep, too late.
No, because it benefits you guys. I'm re-gifting something because I'm an idiot and I just don't use them, but I know sometimes, AJ, you bring cool, like, draft or craft beers or whatever, or you guys just bring something to drink. So I'm like, I know what I have in a drawer here. It's the official beer koozie of the Nerf Herder Council, and I got 2 of them, so...
Oh, an official...
Nice.
What the heck did you get?
Where? No! Somebody moved them. There they are. So you go. 1 for each of you guys.
Oh, this is amazing.
How did you get these?
One of my friends gave them to me many, many moons ago, and I never use can or beer koozies, so...
Okay,
they
so
now belong to you guys whenever you bring drinks over for podcasting.
This is Steve just gave us combination Cleveland Browns and Star Wars koozies. One side has the Browns helmet underneath the saying, "You underestimate the power of the..." So basically Cleveland Browns, and then the other side has Vader with his lightsaber lit, and it says Cleveland Browns. This is awesome. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man, amazing.
Okay, that was important. He's right.
Yeah, so next time you guys bring drinks over, you can keep them a little bit colder in the Cleveland Browns Star Wars
That is
drink
awesome.
koozies.
That is awesome, man. Thank you very much. That's cool. All right. Well, that's a great way to end the show. So
Yes, it is.
You can interact with us and talk with us about our awesome Cleveland Browns Star Wars can koozies on
Next
Twitter.
time I'm hitting up the blue milk, I know it'll stay cold.
There it is.
Exactly.
We are at NHC Podcast, so interact with us there on Twitter. So until next time, I am your host, JT at Dog Pound Jedi. He's AJ.
At Drake Adams 579.
He is the awesome regifting Steve.
At JSteve1005.
And we will catch you next time. Happy New Year, everybody.
This bucket of bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus, me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie? Hell yeah, you my Nerf herder. You my Nerf herder.